All right. It is Crypto After Dark by Constant Collab, and I am in a new setting tonight, a very familiar setting. If you've been watching our channel, I'm at Braulio's house. So if you recognize the background, I'm stealing the setup tonight. I've been on a mobile setup for the past couple of days, weeks, and so I haven't put out as much videos on this segment, but with that being said, thank you all for joining and tuning into another episode of Crypto After Dark. As always, if you like our content, interested in what we're seeing, or are enjoying this video, please like it. Please subscribe to our channel. Catch us on YouTube. On Instagram, and certainly happy to have all of your interaction and feedback. So we really appreciate that. Tonight, as always, I'm going to take a little bit of time myself to go over the markets. I think at this stage we're teetering on some support levels, and there's been a lot of clatter across the influencer space, for lack of better words, there on where we're heading next. I'm not big on predictions, but I do want to point out some of the things that I'm seeing and where we're sitting and what I'm looking for as it relates to making some of those decisions moving forward. And then, in spite of the sort of the fear that's been in the market, which is interesting, the fear is similar to where we were at in the summer when Bitcoin was at 29 or 30,000 for almost 8 weeks. We have similar fear now. So I want to shed some light on some of the positive news that's happened over the last couple of weeks. Some of it repetitive, some not, and talk about some of the other things we're seeing in the adoption space. So that's what I have for tonight. First, we're going to just jump into the markets again. I just want to go over coin market cap really quickly to show that not a lot has changed from a market cap and volume perspective or dominance perspective. I will say here that crypto market cap is inching closer to its 16,000 registered or followed cryptocurrencies. I do believe there's more out there, just given that a lot of exchanges are providing opportunities to ICO, and so it takes a while for them to get to coin market cap. So the velocity of the total cryptos is a challenging narrative for me. I feel like it's creating more and more cloudiness in the space, right? We get like, what's next? For me, it's the ones that have been providing utility all along, right? And some of these new coins are just there to provide distraction. Obviously, if they have some corporate, government, or institutional partnerships, those are the ones that I'm most attracted to. But this number of getting close to 16,000 cryptocurrencies is getting a little bit scary. From a top 10 to top 20 perspective, though, not a lot has changed. I did want to start on the charts by looking at Solana. I know there's been a lot of talk about Solana and where it could potentially head next year. Admittedly, the Solana chart is a little bit scary to me. If I can get it back up here. So we'll go to Solana on the weekly here. And there's just a lot of room to fall, right? This is the trend line from I guess COVID March 2020 down here where it dipped. This is 49 cents on Solana, and it goes all the way up to its $200 mark here. And some of these structures that we're seeing just aren't good. I realize we've had some turns before that continued momentum, but how long can it continue, right? I mean, if I'm highlighting this 2022 to 2023 range here, if it keeps going, great, but to me, I think it's got to stay healthy. It's going to have to fill out some of this space eventually, or otherwise it's just not going to be healthy going into the future. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Solana lose its status in the top 10. Again, I'm not huge on predictions, but I just see this chart and it doesn't look good to me. That's the bias that I'm really sticking to there. To pull up another chart that has a lot of confluence with that trend line that hasn't seen as much price appreciation as XLM, right? So here's a similar look at XLM. Here's those March 17 lows, and here's the March 2020 COVID dip right here. So this light green trend line has provided a lot of confluence all the way up, and this is an ascending triangle, right? So that's usually pretty good. In general, I'm looking for this support to hold, and if it doesn't hold, those are the signs that I'm saying, hey, we might be in a continued bear market, or how long that might be. I'm also pretty weary to these how long the bear market should last and the bull market should last. I think part of the market is maintaining some level of unpredictability. Markets like to be predictable, and they like to repeat themselves. But just to have a straightforward 9-month pump and a 3.5-year bear market every time just doesn't seem logical to me, right? I think they're going to try to keep investors confused. But overall, I'm looking for these trends to hold and continue. If they don't, I'm a little bit worried, right? So here on VeChain, these charts get a little bit messier as we're looking to find support. But this trend line right here has that same focus. I'll go ahead and make it a little bit more green maybe and thicker to show which one we're looking at here. But here's that similar March 20 lows, touch here, and we're touching right here. We're making big decisions, right? And this one has a ton of confluence with other ranges and touches, and so we're all watching, right? I think everyone in our group has been watching to see what happens. Braulio, myself have been watching. Different influencers with a heavy presence on crypto say different things, right? Some say 30, some say 50K next for Bitcoin. It's really not something I'm too interested in getting in. I wouldn't like for it to be done, but again, here's Bitcoin. Let me see if I can't get a better chart here, just to see if I can get a cleaner one. Let's pull up this Bitfinex chart. All right. So, yeah, and that's obviously good support down here if it goes, but here's that March 2020 low again, and here's that same trend that we've been trying to hold. And Bitcoins may go back further down as well. Let's see. Not really. But yeah, the March 2020 anchors are holding very well right now. It's just a matter of determining whether or not they're going to keep holding or not. So yeah, that's what I've been looking at. I think these moments are more telling than meets the eye. I think if Bitcoin does go back down to 30K, we lose that March 2020 anchor on Bitcoin, and that to me just refutes the idea that we're in a long bull market. I do think Bitcoin, I've seen some traders say that we could hit this 30K level here and then where's my brush here? Log on to a new computer and I can't find anything. Here's the brush. If we bounce down here, there's a good chance that we go back up again, and then that would create sort of a head and shoulders, for lack of the better structure here, creating a bear market there. But that's only if we dip first. I still think that some of the folks that are calling for it to go upwards, it still could happen again. I'm not trying to predict either side of this, but these are the scenarios to me. We're either going to break back down to 30 and then bounce back up, or we're going to go up first and then the alt run will be showcased by Bitcoin retracing. So that's just the way I'm looking at it. We'll see what happens, but I wanted to point out that these levels of support are valid, and we're holding on to those levels now. So I'm going to move away from the charts for just a little bit. I may move back into the charts eventually, but for now I'm going to move over to Twitter. I just wanted to pull up a couple tweets that I saw earlier. Here's a tweet I saw earlier. Cryptocurrency is the most asymmetric trade in a generation. It is disrupting the biggest markets on earth, including gold, bonds, global payments, and money. So this guy, Dan Moorhead, shared this article that he wrote for Pantera Capital. And the one thing that he points out in this picture, which I didn't really see in the article, but in something like 90% of institutional investors have no exposure yet. So here's cryptocurrency at 2.5 trillion. It's less than that now. The global digital payments system is worth 5 trillion. Gold is worth 10 trillion. Global M2, which I believe might be money supply, is 100 trillion. And then global bonds at 120 trillion. So if we open up this market, this article, it's kind of interesting. It just stuck the blockchain letter on December 7th. It's a Ponzi scheme. I've heard that line for 8 years. Regulators are talking about bubbles and manipulation constantly. The markets have it right. There is a massive Ponzi scheme going on. Let's investigate. So he goes in talking to manipulated markets, bubbles, and then he goes on and talking about the bond bubble, which is what I wanted to talk about first. And here's one thing he actually says about Bitcoin before we move forward. All this extreme positioning on Bitcoin doesn't make any sense. How can you have a bubble almost nobody owns? Something like 90% of institutional investors have no exposure to Bitcoin or other blockchain tokens. It's definitely not a bubble. Government should stop obsessing about Bitcoin and look inward. The biggest Ponzi scheme in history is the US government and mortgage bond market. 33 trillion with a T dollars, all being driven by one non-economic actor with a dominant position who is trading based on material, non-public information. All this handwriting from the Fed about the taper in future years. What? The Fed's strategy should be cold turkey right now. Somebody should file a Federal Whistleblower Protection Act claim against the Fed under the statute's clause against gross waste of funds. It's clearly a huge waste of funds to print $50,000 per family in America to push up the price of the mortgage bond REITs that Fed presidents own and the assets of other wealthy people while destroying the purchasing power of the average American, making homes unaffordable for 35% who don't own a home, and saddling our children with more debt than it took to win World War II. Bonds will experience a Wile E. Coyote moment. Not sure if it's next week or down the line, after the midterms, but it is certain. So this article goes on and just totally ravishes the current financial system and all of the sort of, stilts that our global economy sits on. We have a lot of fear on crypto because folks don't understand it or they think it's a Ponzi scheme, etc. And they've built all of their wealth off of exactly what this article describes. Like, our asset values right now are in direct correlation with the money supply and the money that's being printed across the world. And if you don't have access to that money, you're going to be left out. Absolutely. I mean, food costs are already hitting a high right now. And so this article is saying, hey, people are worried about Bitcoin. Let's worry about the system we're in right now before we worried about Bitcoin, which is not in a bubble if nobody owns it yet. Quite the opposite to say about US dollars. Everybody globally has their piece of the pie in US dollars, whether they think they do or not. Most global economies have some sort of tie to the US dollar, obviously including China. So this article is very interesting. I can share it. I'll share it in the Constant Collab Telegram chat, and certainly will provide it. I've retweeted it on my Twitter as well. So if you follow me on Twitter, you can find it there. But I did find this article super interesting and something to look at as well. So yeah, we're going to move on from that one for now. I wanted to point out a couple of other articles that I had found in response to, in lieu, I guess, of the recent fear in the market, right? So recently, NBA star Kevin Durant invested in Coinbase in 2017. His stake is now worth 53 times what it was worth then. Durant also invested $1 million in Postmates before its sale to Uber in 2020. So Kevin Durant, investor savvy, Brooklyn Nets, former league MVP, announced the other day that his media company had partnered with Coinbase. Where's the actual headline here? This is the wrong article. That's funny. Here, let's look at this one. Okay. Durant and his agent partner Rich Kleiman announced Wednesday a somewhat unique deal with Coinbase. The two men's investment vehicle, 35 Ventures, will expand their involvement with the exchange to include further investment, a media partnership, philanthropy, and even creative help on NFTs. This includes adding Durant as a collaborator, Boardroom as a media partner, so Boardroom Media is Kevin Durant's media company, and a philanthropic integration with the Kevin Durant Charity Foundation. 35 Ventures will work with Coinbase across several strategic paths, from creating NFT drops to storytelling and content around how crypto empowers everyone, NFT education, and highlighting Coinbase's rapid growth in the industry. Durant and 35 Ventures will help unlock creativity and highlight Coinbase's artist and creator-first approach to the NFT marketplace. So, this is obviously good continued adoption. Even trading cards and things like that have made a surge in the recent inflation space, and I think these continued partnerships with NFTs will continue to enhance that fan experience, right? I have an article coming up as well to talk about different partnerships that I think will incorporate NFTs in different ways from a sports experience, right? And I was just talking to Braulio, right? We were watching Monday Night Football. The Chicago Bears are hosting the Vikings right now in Chicago. They're 4-9. They have no chance to make the playoffs, and the fans, you would know, I have no idea what the fans in there. Everybody's excited. It's freezing cold in Chicago, and so this sports marketplace is well equipped to receive utility in these blockchain endeavors, right? If you have somebody like Kevin Durant interested in NFTs, right? I see a situation in the future where, if you were the first person to get into the game, you used to get like some sort of bobblehead or collectible. They're going to start doing this with NFTs as well. They're going to start giving you digital assets for being the first fan to do this and that, to promote both the Brooklyn Nets or Kevin Durant and blockchain all at the same time. So Kevin responded, being an early investor to a company you're excited about is always an amazing feeling. And then coming back a few years later and create an even more in-depth partnership is rare, and we're fortunate to be building further with Coinbase. So here's a quick little video on that as well. Oh, this is cool art. So this person just writes words and then creates art out of it. So this person wrote Coinbase like a billion times. And then drew this picture of Kevin Durant. So that was a cool promotion. So yeah, here's some just more interesting news on Kevin Durant and some of his investments. But follow the money is typically one of the key components of investing in this marketplace, and just understanding where folks have their money. And this is certainly no different. So this was exciting for me to see during some of the recent fear in the market. And I'm big on partnerships, right? Some people might be focused on certain projects or technical analysis and stuff. As much as I enjoy TA, I think the partnerships will show you where your money is safe into the future. Okay. So then the other one I wanted to talk about, sports related. Crypto exchange FTX US partners with 4 Washington DC sports teams. So the platform will have exclusive rights to future token drops by the 4 teams, and the exchange will be a partner for an in-game highlight series, Big Blockchain. So I think FTX has done a good job focusing on sports. They had Tom Brady on some of their ads. I think Miami Heat's arena is called the FTX Arena. I was at the Washington Capitals game last night, and I saw this article today, so I thought it was interesting. But there were FTX ads everywhere last night. It was the only crypto sort of endeavor I saw there, and I think it's big too as sports books get involved too. Like, what kind of partnerships will there be with sports books and the blockchain going into the future? In a Monday announcement, Monumental Sports said FTX would be the official crypto partner of the Capitals, the Wizards, the Washington Mystics, and the Capital City Go-Go basketball team. I've never heard of them. The integration of blockchain technology with the sports experience has only just begun, and together we are going to advance to an entirely new frontier, which will ignite fans beyond what they can even imagine today. The announcement is the latest partnership between FTX and major sports franchises. In March, they had a $135 million agreement with Miami Heat, which will be the FTX Arena at least till 2040. The firm has also been official sponsor of Major League Baseball since June, and partners with the University of Kentucky to allow its Wildcats men's basketball team to act as brand ambassadors. That's pretty cool. And those partnerships are really helping certain college teams recruit and do things like that as well. So this news I found to be really cool. It's not a lot, but partnerships are big. You come on to Crypto After Dark, and we're going to talk about partnerships. I'm going to, I don't give out financial advice, but if people are asking me what I'm looking at in crypto, I'm looking at partnerships, because partnerships to me, FTX is good till 2040 if I'm reading this correctly. I mean, unless the business dies, but a sound board and a group of investors is not going to make a decision like that without thinking they're going to be a valid going concern until that time. The Staples Center made it on Staples for 20 years, and has anybody been shopping at Staples for the last 5 years? I mean, yeah, there's longevity in these markets for sure. And so, people like to say zoom out or whatever. We zoom out on Bitcoin, $0 is a squiggly. Got my $0 is a squiggly line here if I'm just messing around. if it were to do something like that, who really cares? This is $18 million worth of Bitcoin one day right here in 2030. So, and that could easily happen. So, anyway, just like to zoom out on some things sometimes. So, one thing I'd also like to point out today, and I found this article really interesting. I'm going to pull up the tweet that I found it on first. Let me go back to my Twitter here. So, Gwyneth Paltrow tweets this today. So if you're not familiar with Gwyneth Paltrow, who Gwyneth Paltrow is, she's an American actress. She's received Academy Awards, Golden Globe Awards. What are some of her good movies here? Shout with John Travolta, Hook, Cruel Doubt, The High Road. What else? Seven with young detective Brad Pitt. So she's been in a lot of movies. Fit, Flesh and Bone, Variety, Hard Eight, Great Expectations. Anyway, Gwyneth Paltrow, she's like, hey, buying crypto has often felt exclusionary. I actually saw one on Instagram that I want to read because her Instagram post said, participating in the world of cryptocurrency has felt exclusionary, especially I find to women. I was on a show called Planet of the Apps in 2017, and that was my first real experience learning about crypto and the blockchain. But it took me a few years before I actually felt comfortable buying Bitcoin. There's a lot of factors to consider, and historically there was a high barrier of entry to even purchase it. In order to democratize who can even participate, Cash App is now making it easy to gift Bitcoin. And the best part, I get to give out $500K worth of Bitcoin to you to spread the holiday cheer. So there's a $500K giveaway going on, as you can see here, through Cash App, and I just find it very interesting that she pointed out women as well. The gender gap for investing on some of the gender gap's real on the other side too. Men are stupid. We just don't know anything. I find women to be smarter in a lot of things, but as it relates to women in investing, it's just like this unnecessary blockage, right? Like, why aren't women, I asked, when I'm in Charlotte, where I live, I was joking around about starting my podcast this summer, and I always thought it'd be funny, do a 2 girls, 1 crypto, or something funny to make people catch on, because in reality, all they know about is Bitcoin and dog tokens, and that's in general. So Gwyneth sort of is putting an eye on this story here. So Gwyneth Paltrow announces Bitcoin giveaway via Cash App. It looks like Christmas has come early for Gwyneth Paltrow fans. She's giving away 500,000 Bitcoin to Instagram and Twitter followers. I've long been bullish on the idea of democratizing Bitcoin and making it easy to send it to friends and family, she said on Instagram. Do something special for my social community, empower them to learn more about cryptocurrency. So Cash App, Coinbase, all of these US-based apps are really good, easy ways to get involved into the marketplace. And while I don't believe they're the best way, there's downfalls of them as well. Getting started is always the hardest part. And if we go back to, our Ponzi scheme guy here who says hey, we're at 2.5 trillion, getting retail investors is difficult to get started. And so I think this move is huge for adoption. I think it's, Paltrow is the latest celebrity to take part in Cash App's giveaway campaign, which started in November. Last month, Green Bay Packers quarterback Aaron Rodgers announced he was giving away Bitcoin. So Cash App's owned by Block, so this is Square's way of getting into, adoption. Typically, these come with higher fees when you're purchasing in the future than a typical exchange, but in general, adoption is huge, and we're going to need it to continue this marketplace forward, and that's going to take time. I didn't mean to make that sound like a desperate claim there, it's bad if we don't get adoption now. If we don't get it now, we'll get it later. I don't think these markets are going to go anywhere anytime soon. But as it relates to short-term adoption, the more good news we see here, the higher likelihood we have of sort of blowing off the top into next year, and then getting that bear market that we've been waiting for. Otherwise, I think there's not a lot of narratives really keeping this support intact right now. So anything that we can see or talk about in this space, um, it is helpful, right? And so, as we enter this bear market, one of the things I'm going to be looking forward to seeing it and developing on is the NFTs or is the metaverse space. Which metaverse is going to win? The one thing I've noticed and I've talked about with metaverses is, um, you know, that gaming concept. Like Halo Infinite just came out, Call of Duty's come out all the time, and folks really enjoy playing those games for their gameplay experience. I have not seen comparable gameplay from an experience standpoint come out of any of the other games we've been playing. Sandbox, Decentraland, Axie Infinity, any of those metaverse games. I'm not saying they aren't fun, but I'll be looking forward to see if there's any partnerships with any Microsoft or Sony aspects, or how regular video games can become play to earn, or aspects like that. So that's one thing I'll be looking forward in the downside of that market as well. That's really what I want to talk about tonight. I'm going to talk about a few more charts here. I think Doge is not looking very strong either. I think Doge, may see 8 cents again if it can't hold this channel here. You could adjust it a little bit if you wanted to see if maybe our lines here are a little bit off. I don't really like changing trend lines too much, but you can find confluence anywhere if you look for it, right? So maybe Doge does hold this, but I'd be weary of buying Doge at these levels too. We're holding on to critical support. Ethereum. So I think I had this prediction on Ethereum. It's going both ways. Recently, I will say this weekly candle is trying really hard to get back up there again. So in the last 4 hours or today, we've seen some strength coming up. So if we can get back up there, I think these assets will blow off the top as part of this inflation narrative as well. I don't understand how we're having this inflation narrative and not blowing off the top on some of these as well. So all of these things are sort of to be determined. We'll certainly keeping you guys up to speed, updating you as much as we can. Keep tuning into the lunch hour over the holidays. We'll try to put out as many episodes as we can. And also looking forward to talking more about Tether and some of the other lawsuits around the space coming up as well, the XRP lawsuit and things of that nature. So keep tuning in, and thank you all for joining, and we will catch you all next time on another episode of Crypto After Dark.